Okay, it's time to do my very first CNC project with the new unit that I got. This is the SmartBench from Yeti Tools, and they have on their website something called the CNC Academy, which has a huge library of all the videos on anything you can imagine, from setting stuff up and squaring things, importing files, using the laser datum, how to take your tool in and out. Extremely helpful. And all I've really done is gone and watched a whole bunch of their videos, and then I downloaded VCarve Pro. I took my logo and imported it in there, and then created the cut path based on the videos they kind of showed me. And I've got a piece of plywood, and we're gonna try cut that out today, and hopefully I've got all my depths right, and I've set things up, and the parameters are good, and I don't mess anything up. Okay, first thing to do is manually square this thing up. So I'm gonna pull the X-beam back until it hits the legs right here. Now I'll turn the machine on for the first time. Now it's gonna run through its homing. Now we're gonna run through a real quick process of calibrating it. Okay, now and really quickly to calibrate, it's gonna move back and forth on the X-axis and the Y-axis and have me take some measurements to make sure that it's all calibrated right. So now it's gonna have me put a tape measure in here and butt up against the inside and then take a measurement to the edge of this rail right here. Then it moved back and forth. It wants me to retake the measurement and make sure that it's the right one. And then it went away and came back and is trying to make sure that it is coming back to the exact same point, which it is again here. Now it'll move again, and it's going to have me enter the value of where I'm at, which right now is 100 millimeters. So I'm going to come and enter in 100 millimeters. And now it's going to take a trip all the way over there to some other point and have me measure it again. So it says the distance should be 1100 millimeters. So now I should go all the way into here and make sure I am at 1100 millimeters, which I am. So I'll say finish on that one. And now it's going to want to do the exact same thing on the Y-axis, obviously just a greater distance. So just like that, it's all calibrated. Now I can put my workpiece on and upload my file. Okay, now I need to put a spoil board and then my workpiece in. I'm gonna move the Z head into the middle so I can lift the upper X-beam. Now I'll loosen off the two toggles on the side and I'll lift this whole X-beam up so that the workpiece and the spoil board can slide underneath. Okay, now I'm gonna slide this spoil board onto the unit. And now I wanna make sure the spoil board is centered and also running parallel with the Y bench. So I'm just going to come under here and take a measurement and make sure it's the same on both sides, and then I can clamp it down. Okay, and now it's time to mount the workpiece, and all I'm going to do is line up the edge of it with the edge of the spoil board, which I know is parallel with the workbench. And I've made some marks here so I could go a bit quicker. And then we're actually going to screw it down through the workpiece, through the spoil board, and into the sacrificial boards here on the Y bench to hold it all down. Obviously something like this size doesn't have the whole vacuum deal that the bigger ones will have. So you're gonna use screws to hold it in place and make sure that obviously the screws are outside of where you're doing your routing or your cutting, and to make sure that the tops of the screws are down far enough that the top of the bench doesn't run into them. Now I'm gonna move the X-beam over top with the top part of the X-beam raised up higher, and then I'll set it down so the wheels roll on top. Okay, and now you can see on the underside of this upper one, there's these bearing wheels. And I'm just gonna come and move them all out and kind of space them out so that they're riding evenly on top of the workpiece. And then I'll move the whole X-beam top down so that those wheels ride on top of the workpiece. I'll loosen the two sides off and set it down in place. All right, now it's time to put the bit in. And like most of the blades and bits in my shop, I use Freud. So I've got a Freud bit here. I need to come over to this side and loosen off this bolt here, unplug it, pull it out. You push that button to lock it. We can loosen off the collet, slide the bit in, and tighten it back down. And it can slide back into its spot, tighten it back down, and plug it back in. Okay, and now we need to do something called setting the laser datum. So down here, I'll show you in a second, I've got a laser cross that I need to set in a certain spot. Now when you do the V-carve and you make your file and everything, you tell it where you want to start. And really what this is imagine you're giving walking directions to somebody in a city that has skyscrapers. So you're going to ask them where they are and they'll tell you they're at 3rd and 19th or something like that. And imagine that they need to get to 4th and 6th and they got to get to the 3rd floor. So you're going to tell them from where they are, where they have to go. You're going to tell them how many X blocks you have to walk, how many Y blocks, and how many Z stairs you have to go up and down. So what I need to do right now is set this datum, set this laser datum, so that the SmartBench knows where it's getting its marching orders from. And I've set my datum right on the very corner of my workpiece. So I'm basically gonna move it over until this laser lines up just with the edge, and then I can set it. And then this machine knows where the piece is in relation to where it's at and where to cut the whole design, I hope. Okay, so you can see this crosshair right here. I need to move this over until that crosshair lines right up on that corner. And so I was using the bigger step there. Now I'll step it down so that it's just a real small movement, so I can get it exactly on that corner. And then I can set the laser datum. And then when it moves like that, that's moving the cutter right over that spot. The laser was just so that it was easy for me to see. And now inside there, you can see that my cutter head is right over top of the corner of the workpiece. Okay, with the X and Y set, now I need to set the Z height. So I'm gonna pull out the probe plate here, and I'm gonna set it underneath. I've set the top of my workpiece as the reference point. And so now I'm gonna use this plate and the Z probe function to go down and let the machine know where the top of the workpiece is. And now it's set. Okay, and now I've taken my USB drive, I've plugged it in, I've uploaded my file into it, and something else cool that it does right here is it'll kind of show you to make sure you've got it all right. So it gives you a little diagram here. Obviously, this is the machine itself. This is the Y bench and the X. This red shaded area is actually my workpiece, which is set in there kind of how I thought it was gonna go. And that little bullseye right there is where I set the XY datum, which is where I set it. So it looks all good. I'm gonna push play and see what happens. Okay, just making sure my vacuum is hooked up. I'm gonna turn it on and I'm gonna push the play button. I'm gonna hit play. Okay, and there it is, my very first project on the Yeti SmartBench. Okay, so first reactions after using it for the very first time. As I mentioned before, I've never used a big CNC before. My only experience so far with the CNC has been with the shaper, the handheld shaper one. I kind of got used to the idea of the X, Y, and the Z, but this was a totally different story. You create your file, you come in, you load it, and you push play and hope you've done everything right. Obviously with any new tool, and in particular one that has to do a lot with programming and computers and AutoCAD and all that, there's going to be a learning curve, more so than just getting a new saw or something like that. And definitely with this, there was a learning curve. As I also mentioned, I spent quite a bit of time watching the videos. And again, I will say that the CNC Academy that these guys created online, where you can go through all the videos, set up datums, squaring it up, choosing your bits, all that type of stuff, extremely helpful, very well put together, and done to a degree that a guy like me who really hasn't ever used one before can come and cut something. And the next thing that I'll point out is one of the main reasons I wanted to get this one was because of the big footprint, because it can cut a 4x8 sheet and can do bigger signs and bigger projects like this. The desktop versions, although they're good at doing what they do, they have a small footprint, and so you can't do the bigger things with them. You either have to step all the way up to a big gantry one, which is really cost prohibitive, or use the handheld shaper like I've got. But I would say that I like this one significantly more than the shaper, although the shaper does cost less money, because I can set it in and push play and actually go about doing something else. Instead of having to be there and be the guy that's moving it around the entire time and focusing on it, now I get to liberate a bit of my time to do something else. Also with the shaper, like provided that you're inside that little circle, it's okay and everything's gonna cut just fine. But if you move it outside of the circle faster than its ability to retract the Z head, then you're going to mess up your project. I know that because I did it. So basically it has a really quick withdrawal function. So if you go outside of the circle, the bit will jump right out so you don't cut into your project. So whatever the speed is, the value is X. If you're screwing up at X minus 1, then it's gonna retract in time, or at X. But if you screw up or move faster or trip and bump it or something like that at X plus 1, then your bit's gonna bite into your project. And you can have, and I did have, little areas where there's kind of nicks and things like that. By contrast with this one, there was no error. It went along its path completely, it did exactly what it was supposed to, and was more precise. So all in all, I'm really impressed with it and excited to do more stuff with it. While this one was cutting, I was thinking of all different kinds of cool projects that I can do with it. So far, 2 thumbs up, I'm really impressed.